friends, Ashley from Wildwoods&Homestead here. I wanted to do a video on our spruce tip harvesting season. We just came out of this season here in northern Alberta. All of the lovely spruce tips have grown out into, or they're starting to grow out into fresh growth, and it's looking really good. But a few weeks back, we did have these lovely little spruce tips all over our spruce trees on our property. And they're something that I just really enjoy harvesting every year because I find them to be so useful. In this video, I'm going to share a few of the ways that we use spruce tips on our homestead, as well as 2 products that I make and sell. And I have those in my online shop, and I will put a link to our shop in the description box of this video. But first, I'll just share a few ways that we store spruce tips so that we can enjoy them all winter. And the first way is freezing. I don't freeze a whole lot because I find that as a large family, we can fill up our freezer pretty quickly, but I will do a few Ziploc bagfuls of frozen spruce tips because they are really nice. They have a bit of a fresher flavor than the dried spruce tips. I like to pull them out in the winter, use them to make tea or put them in a soup or a stew, usually like a chicken soup, or put them on roast chicken, something that's a little bit bland where you can really taste the spruce tips. But also spruce tips are really good for you. They're high in vitamin C and chlorophyll, so I try to find as many ways as I can to incorporate them into our diet. So this way I just wash my spruce tips. They're really easy to clean. They're not buggy at all. When I first heard about spruce tips, I thought, oh, these are going to take forever to clean because I got to check all the little tiny branches and there's probably going to be bugs in them and stuff like that. But I actually find that that is not the case. They're really easy. So I'll wash them and dry them and then lay them out onto a baking sheet. Then I will put that into my freezer. And then I will just gather them all so that they're not frozen into a clump. Try to mix them a bit there, and then put them into my freezer bag and label that. Then I can layer those bags, and then we have spruce tips that that have a bit of a fresher taste than the drying method. The other way that we store spruce tips for the winter is by drying them. And I'll just do the same process where I wash them, put them out onto a cloth, try to dry them a bit, and then I'll just lay them out in my dehydrator and fill my dehydrator with them. I love this way because it's so easy to store them. You can just put them into some glass jars, store it like in your spice cabinet or your pantry or something like that, and then just use them as you would any other spice. Sprinkle them onto some roasted potatoes or scrambled eggs. You can use them to make a winter tea. You can take the dried spruce tips, mix them with your coffee grounds before you brew your coffee, and make a spruce tip coffee, which has a really nice flavor to it. And then of course you get the added benefit of those spruce tips, the nutritious value of those spruce tips. You can also make an herbal tea blend and add the dried spruce tips to like a black tea or green tea. We'll add dried rose hips or sometimes some dried Saskatoon berries that we will make like a tea blend from our acreage out of it. And it's just a really nice thing to have midwinter when when we don't have many fresh things available to us. It's just nice to get this light lemony spruce flavor in our dishes. Okay, so the next thing I'm sharing here, this is one of the products that I mentioned that I make and sell, and these are spruce tip infused salts, and I do 2 different kinds. I do a pink Himalayan salt and then a white sea salt, and I will infuse those with ground spruce tips and let those cure for about 3 months. I find the longer it sits, the better it becomes. And we use these every day. We use them just in a little salt pot that I have to the side of my stove. We'll use it just to season our food. We use it on popcorn or chicken or scrambled eggs, anywhere that you might want to have the health benefits of those spruce tips and the light flavor of it. It's just a really neat way to preserve the spruce tips and then to get those nutrients throughout the year when you can't harvest them. So I will have a link to our shop in the description box just in case anybody might be interested to check those out, and I should have these in the shop in the next few months. Now I'm just sharing how I make a spruce tip tea. I just take my dried spruce tips and put them into something. Normally, if I'm making tea, I'm making it for my family, so I'll put it into like a large gallon jar, or I have a large teapot. But on this day, I was just making one spruce tip cup of tea for my son. He had a bit of a sore throat, and you just make it like you make any other herbal tea. Pour hot water over your dried spruce tips, let it steep for a few minutes, and then strain it out. And then I just added a little bit of honey and some, I think it was bee pollen or bee propolis or something like that. Since he had a sore throat, I just wanted him to have something that had a little bit more nutrients in it. And it's just a really nice tea to have on hand, especially in those winter months when you need a little bit extra vitamin C and other nutrients to soothe the sore throat or help a cold or something like that. This next recipe is not my own. I found this a few years ago. I believe her blog or YouTube is called The Haphazard Homestead. And I will find that and then put a link to it in the description box. But she calls this a balsamic vinegar, and it's really good. It's also a really good way to preserve spruce tips if you don't want to freeze them, or if you don't have a dehydrator, or you just don't want to dehydrate them in general, but you just want to do something with the spruce tips, something fun. This is a really fun and easy recipe. So I just take my jar, and I use a plastic lid because I find that when I use a metal lid, it will rust. I will fill my jar halfway. I don't have measurements for this, but I just fill whatever jar I'm using halfway with fresh or frozen spruce tips. Then I will put in 2 tablespoons of raw honey, and then 2 tablespoons of either coarse black pepper or peppercorns. And then I'll fill that all the way to the top with apple cider vinegar. Then put my lid on, gently shake it around, and I will leave that in my cupboard for up to 3 months. And when I'm just going in and out of my cupboard to get ingredients, I'll just reach over, give that jar a very gentle little shake to keep everything mixed together really well. And it's just really good to put on salad dressings, whisk in some olive oil once it's all cured and use it as a salad dressing or a marinade. And it has a really nice flavor. The apple cider vinegar is so good for you. The spruce tips are so good for you. And I just feel like it's a really good way to preserve those spruce tips. Okay, so the next thing I'm sharing that I do with my spruce tips is I am making a dish bar soap, and I actually sell these dish bars in my shop, and I'll put the link to our shop in the description box in case anybody might be interested to check that out. But this was an experiment. I wanted to infuse my main oils with my spruce tips, and then I made a spruce tip tea just like I showed a bit earlier in the video how to do, and I used that spruce tip tea to dissolve my sodium hydroxide, and then I just went through with the soaping process. I love my dish bars because I've spent a few years formulating them to be a little bit more degreasing than a shampoo bar or a body bar. They clean dishes really well. They don't leave soap scum, at least not in my experience of using them. And I also find them to be a lot easier on my hands. And the whole reason why I started formulating dish bars was because I was reacting to everything, even natural liquid dish soaps. And then even using gloves to wash dishes with. I was reacting to whatever was the material of the glove. So I guess I just have really sensitive skin. But I have found that since making my own soaps, all of that has calmed down. Of course, diet plays a huge role in that too. And I know I had a lot of issues with my diet that helped with my skin, but I would say definitely using these dish bars has helped a lot, and then using my own soaps in general. So I'm pretty passionate about creating natural soaps that do not have synthetic fragrances. They do not have any ingredients in them that might be harmful to a person or the environment. I'm also mindful of that too because we have our septic that goes out onto our acreage. So I really try to use things that aren't going to go and further pollute the environment around us. So anyway, I really like the way this soap turned out. I infused my oils, like I mentioned, and it had a really nice, light, obviously very natural scent. So it's a very light scent. And I wanted to do a double layer effect. So with the second part of my batter, I added some French green clay. And French green clay is so soothing for skin. I love using French green clay. It is, not only is it so good for your skin, but using clays actually attracts dirt and grease. So it actually is cleaning, which I think is so interesting that you can clean with dirt or clay. But I will use clay a lot in my dish bars, in my shampoo bars, even in my body bars, because it just helps to draw out oils and dirt, but it doesn't strip the skin and leave it feeling, well, for lack of a better word, just leave it feeling stripped, basically. So anyway, I love the way this recipe turned out, and I'll just share a little bit at the end of this video how I use my dish bars in washing dishes. And then again, I'll leave a link to that in our description box in case anybody might be interested to go check out our online shop.